So, hi, folks. It's Sean Haynes with the Agri CFO on the Ag Center, giving you a quick update on markets like always. Hope you guys have a happy 4th of July. We won't be doing this next 4th of July. We're all going to take some time with our families, like I hope you do, to enjoy that great holiday, barbecue some good steaks, and blow some things up, like always. But that being said, let's get into dairy markets. Dairy prices kind of held steady a little softening in the class four side with the blend price just at $16, maybe a little bit below, depending on how you do the calculator. Um, Class threes at 14.93, 14.94. It's just really holding the market down. Just an excess supply of milk. Fluid milk's kind of left the market as the schools have ended out. So all that high priced milk is out of the blend. That's putting some additional milk back into the supply chain for cheese and butter, which softened butter up a little bit, but I think it's really softening up the cheese markets. Back east, especially, there's talks of just too much milk for plant capacity to make and dumping of that milk. It's hard to verify that, but that's the talk out there. So as long as that's going on, you're continuing to flood the market or push the market with low price cheese, which is holding that class three price down and really pushing us down to the low $16 mark to mid $16 for the next 3 months of milk price, and kind of coming back up in the high to mid $17 per hundredweight range in September when schools come back on. Still a loss situation for dairies. Just no way most guys are gonna make money at that. My best operations are making $19.50 per hundredweight break even, maybe $20. So that's kind of the level we're gonna have to be at. A little bit of softening coming in September with feed prices once they kind of roll into the final mix with new old crop hulls coming in at 175 to 145, as low as that, and then new crop hulls being at 140. So again, those new crop hulls will be available later in the year, kind of flooding the market. Coming to the market, rice straws price sitting at $70 a ton. Wheat straws at $125 a ton, about half of what it was prior year. Corn silage in the north market holding at 45 to 55, south market 55 to $62 per ton in the fields. So no surprises there, but it hasn't come up or down, but it's still there, and which is also another offset, $23 per ton less than last year. So once all that stuff kind of comes in and hits the income statement with these dairies, it'll help bring that break even down a little bit. But unless we get some price relief, I don't see that happening anytime soon. Dairy cattle numbers really haven't come up though. It's the first time they've really kind of been flat, about 13,000 head US wide up for the last month, and maybe starting to decline next month if you really look at the trends, especially with beef prices as high as they are and guys calling heavy. Cull price is still in the 95 to $1.05 range, maybe $1.10 for really good quality cattle on the beef side. Holstein bull calves at $250, and then crossbred dairy calves running anywhere from $450 to $500 per head, and it's a $30 back for steers at that on top of that. So at that price, it's hard to say no to not cull cattle and sell beef calves. Beef markets look to be good for the short period of time, or not for a short period of time, for a long period of time, which will continue to be a bright spot for dairies and an opportunity to at least make some money on something for a while. So for the short term, dairy's gonna be a tough year all the way through September. Hopefully, get some relief and see a better, brighter future in October. So that's the continuing saga of the dairy industry here in California. Now let's go on to beef, a little brighter spot. Beef's kind of flat again, off about 2 cents here, up about 2 cents there. Kind of sitting in the 259, 260 range for 4.5 weight cattle, about 20, 30 cents off for heavier cattle in the 7-8 range. On the long side, it looks like it's kind of consistently priced out like that way for the next 9 to 12 months. Upfront cattle a little more expensive, 285 for 4.5 weights, 267, 270 for heifers. Just market continues to be strong. There's not a lot of cattle. Placements are down. Demand's been remaining kind of consistent. We've got a type of cattle that people want, which is marbled white fat cattle. Not a lot of that in the world being made more as far as expanding supply goes. And just drought conditions back east kind of really pushing down the ability to expand the U.S. beef herd. And even if you did expand it in a quick basis, it's 2 to 4 years to really get there. So things look pretty good on the beef side. Placements and feedlots down 4% year over year. Marketing and cattle down. Box beef is up about the 334 range to 301 for choice and select. That's still enough of a range to provide profitability to most of the packers out there for what they're paying for these calves, but calves are getting expensive enough where it's really squeezing the margins on their side. Cargill and Tyson, those guys are saying they're looking at maybe breaking even in the next quarter to 2 3 quarters with these cattle prices kind of coming in where they're at, but it makes you wonder because they may not be losing as much money because of accounting, depreciation, things like that. And also, we're going to see some offsetting fee decreases as far as costs go on the go forward basis. So we'll see what's going to happen. Some folks in the beef industry, a little quick update. You're going to feel some effects of some new rules coming into place for pharmaceuticals in the rest of the U.S. Here in California, we've been doing it for quite a while, but any of these over-the-counter antibiotics that guys used to be able to just go to the feed store and pick up penicillin, oxy, tetracycline, things like that, and boluses are no longer going to be available over the counter. To have a vet prescribe them as far as June goes. Again, we've been dealing with that in California, but it's going to be a change for the Midwest. So hopefully the guys out there kind of get used to dealing with the things we've been dealing with for quite a while. So that's the continued happy story for beef here in California. Now let's get on to the nut markets. Crop conditions tend to look good for the almond crop. Weather's nice and moderate. Nuts are sizing up well. We're waiting for this objective report. Things are really kind of stale. Not a lot of product moving around. Buyers are, holding back. Sellers are holding back. Everybody's waiting to see the subjective estimates or objective estimates going to say July 11th or 12th. They pushed it out a little bit, which is taking some growers off because they'd like to have some more answers as far as what the crop looks like it's going to be doing and what the price may do in response to that. A lot of folks in the field seem to think that crop size really is a lot less than what the subjective said. So we'll have to see where that comes in. Pistachios, won't even comment on that right now. We've got our own objective estimate for that crop coming out in the next day or so. So we'll provide that video here. Just link up and give us a like and we'll show it to you. On the walnut side, walnuts just a lot of depression right there. You're looking at global production kind of being down about 2% this year. U.S. production being down about 3% this year. So it's not really a lot of movement to get that glut of walnuts out there as far as what's available to sell. And just in the leading nations, a lot of people don't know this, but China produces twice the amount of walnuts we do by volume. And they're just going to have another record year of 1.4 billion pounds. With that kind of volume out there, they're controlling the market. They're flooding the market in some cases and just depressing the prices a little bit. So until we get some movement on the walnut side out, you're going to see continued losses there. I'm seeing a lot of orchards being pushed over for alternative nut crops. For example, like if pistachio is available or maybe even almonds or just open crop ground, since you're going to lose so much, especially in these older orchards. So we'll have to see if that eventually takes place as far as volumes go. You have to have quite a few acres go out or a lot of demand pickup to kind of cure this oversupply situation on the walnut side. That's all I've got for nuts this week. Now let's get on to crops. Forage crops continue to come in with good yields on the hay side. Quality is good. Dairymen are buying hand to mouth, which is the primary users of that hay. So crop prices have come down a little bit. Wheat and forage crops in the $130 to $170 range. Alfalfa's $16 to $18 for a horse bale. It's kind of come off quite a bit from the $22, $23, $24 it was last year. Premium alfalfa is still kind of holding up. Test hay just isn't a lot of available. We kind of missed that first cutting, so not so much out there. And again, guys buying hand to mouth, so that's come off from highs. It's sitting around 325 to 365 from what we're seeing. Other alfalfa types anywhere from 260 to 340, quite a wide range of what's going on there. Corn silage, North Market, $45 to $55. South Market, $55 to $62 in the field. Planting conditions have been good. Haven't seen much more movement off of that, so that seems to be kind of where it's going to land this year for forage crops. Strawberry side, we're still in the thick of strawberries. Production is still off about 25 to 30% from last year this time. Still, again, not quite sure if that's a timing issue or if it's from loss of crop acreage from the floods that went through. So prices are $11 for flat for organic and about $11 a flat for conventional, $16 a flat for organic, which is up a little bit from last year. Demand seems to be high seasonally, especially coming into the 4th of July holiday. So we see some more pressure on that. Tomatoes, again, most guys should be seeing anywhere from 142 to 150 for late season bonus. Most tomatoes kind of came in late in the year. Again, recurring worry I have is all these tomatoes ripening at the same time and kind of over supplying the processor's ability to process them. And so timing's gonna be a real issue with quality this year as far as how guys get paid and how much they get paid. Cotton's off a little bit. Conditions back east are good, so it's down around the 79 cents per pound range for July. We'll have to see where that ends up, but this, not going to be a great crop this year for most folks. Cherry harvest is kind of coming off its peak, settling down quite a bit. Prices were really good in the $40 per box range for quite a while. Kind of settled down in the $20 to $25 range toward the end of the season up here in the north. Quantity of crop was really good. Quality was all over the place. So some guys had some fissures from the weather over the past year that kind of just happened, sizing issues, things like that. So either you had a great size and a great crop, or maybe in some regional areas the crop just wasn't there and kind of offset the price. So, but again, bumper crop year, up about 60% from last year. Prices in the beginning were really strong, kind of tapered off to more close to break even toward the end. So we'll have to see where you guys kind of end up there. And that's the crop story for here in California. Now let's talk about interest rates this week. Markets are kind of flat a little bit to down on the mortgage side. 7.5% for a 10-year loan, 7.1% for a 30-year loan, 6.5 for 15-year fixed. Jumbo loans have kind of come down a little bit from where they were. It's about probably 6.25, 6.34%, depending on the tenor that you got on the loan. Just seems to be better credit quality on that side of the market, and maybe trying to stimulate some demand there. On the treasury side, short-term treasuries like 5.16 for 1 month versus 3.77 for a 30-year. That's really inverted, right? It's kind of contradictory to what you'd think, that you'd get paid more for a 30-day rate than a 30-year rate on your money, which basically means the market's telling us, hey, we don't think rates are going to stay high for a long period of time, maybe a year, and then come off again. So why do I want to lock myself up into that? So I'll pay you on the short-term side, but on the back side, I'm not going to do that. If you look at, kind of leading indicator, it's also usually a leading indicator of a recession, and the sharper that inversion gets usually means the worse the recession is going to be. So this is a pretty sharp inversion that we've kind of seen. And so I think on the go-forward basis, if you look at things like pending bankruptcies, all-time high from 2008, you look at household debt, all-time high, and you look at, just fiscal debt with the government, again, all-time high and increasing. It's really hard to see how we kind of don't slip into that negative growth territory. And if you look at some people's accounts, we've been there already for 4 quarters. So I know I feel it. Most people I talk to feel it, between inflation pressures and interest rate pressures and cost of living, things like that. It's really kind of a weird time. Stagflation just seems to be a real big worry, which means we've got continuing pervasive inflation with flat to declining wages, right? That aren't keeping up with that, which creates this kind of gap between the ability to pay for things and the cost of things. And they've got to get around to that. Some folks, we've been talking about the Fed moving the inflation target up 1% to 3% versus 2% to be more realistic long range, which basically means I'm baking in more inflation for the long term, which doesn't make sense to me. So the biggest thing is we've got a lot of government stimulation in the economy. We've done a huge number of increases in rates over the past year and a half. I think the thing I worry about is we really aren't giving those rate increases time to affect. This thing's called a time lag in economics, which means when I do something now, the immediate effect isn't tomorrow. It takes 6 months to 7 months to 9 months to see that effect really roll through the economy. And you've got 15 to 16 consecutive rate increases that really haven't been seen ever, that really just haven't fully hit the market yet. Maybe half of them have, but they half haven't. So we'll see what that effect is on the economy and inflation in general. And I'm really worried about the housing market, what it's going to do there. I mean, supply has been keeping prices up. There's a lot of home starts kind of coming in to kind of take advantage of that. But with these rates high and inflation kind of pushing things, pushing together and squeezing homeowners, you wonder just how long it is before things break on that side. So we'll have to see. So at least it's not boring. Farm mortgage rates still holding the same way, 8% for really long rates, 7.75% for a floating rate. It's hard for me to see anybody locking a rate in at this point in time, especially given the fact that in a year or two it's going to come off. But again, those high rates keeping the real estate market very cool. Not a lot of properties trading, especially with commodity prices not really offering a lot as far as compensation to pay for those rates. So once again, thanks for listening to the commentary. If you got any suggestions or want to hear some other types of crops, please let us know. Always like and share this if you can. Please look us up to sign up for our newsletter, which we kind of put all this stuff in a nice, tight weekly format for you guys to see crop prices and movements of crops, and maybe a little bit of notes on what's going on in the markets. You don't find it anywhere else. Some of this stuff's actually proprietary as far as how we calculate milk prices, for example, and then some of the prices we get for futures contracts and beef. So again, please like us, share us, whatever it is. And again, look for the button to subscribe to the newsletter as well as this podcast. Thanks.